For my comparative sustainable development policy analysis, I have chosen to talk about air quality and the evolution of the Clean Air Act policies and subsequent regulations. These Clean Air Act policies are closely related to UN Sustainable Development Goals 3, 7, 11, 12, and 17. The picture here, taken at the protest on Earth Day, April 1970, says it all. Be aware of air you're breathing. And if you aren't part of the solution, you are part of the pollution. These are the powerful words that have shaped the United States environmental movements. The Industrial Revolution was a global phenomenon marked by the transition to new manufacturing processes in the period from about 1760 to 1840. By 1970s, the effects of pollution from the Industrial Revolution was becoming painfully visible. The Air Pollution Control Act of 1955 was the first federal legislation involving air pollution. This act provided funds for federal research in air pollution. The Clean Air Act of 1963 was the first federal legislation regarding air pollution control. The economic value of air quality improvements made due to the Clean Air Act of 1970s was estimated to be $2 trillion saved and 160,000 deaths prevented. The enactment of the Clean Air Act of 1970 resulted in a major shift in the federal government's role in air pollution control. This legislation authorized the development of comprehensive federal and state regulations to limit emissions from both stationary industrial sources and mobile sources. 4 major regulatory programs affecting stationary sources were initiated. The National Ambient Air Quality Standards, commonly known as NAAQS, state implementation plans, new source performance standards, and finally, the national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants. Furthermore, the enforcement authority was substantially expanded. The adoption of this very important legislation occurred at approximately the same time as the National Environmental Policy Act that established the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. The EPA was created on December 2, 1970, under Richard Nixon in order to implement the various requirements included in these acts. Clean Air Act of 1970 established a risk-based program under which only a few standards were developed. The 1990 Clean Air Act amendment was revised to require issuance of technology-based standards for major sources and certain area sources. The 1990 Clean Air Act amendment substantially increased the responsibility of the federal government. New regulatory programs were authorized for expanded and modified enforcement authority by EPA and State Department of Air Quality, commonly known as DEQs, established permitting program requirements, and finally authorized a program to control 188 toxic pollutants and groups of chemicals encompassing over 10,000 specified chemicals. The NESHAP program is the focus of my talk today, but I thought it is noteworthy to list all the amendments to the Clean Air Act due to the fact that effects of all these work by EPA has had profound effects on the manufacturing processes and their impact on the air pollution in the United States. One of the most impressive initiatives of these amendments were the implementation of over 140 industry-specific NESHAPs. Starting in 1971, EPA identified asbestos as a hazardous air pollutant and promulgated the asbestos NESHAP in 1973. Wood NESHAP was promulgated in 1997. What is so impressive about this implementation of these industry-specific rules is that EPA took the initiative through series of collaborative joint meetings with industries such as wood and automotive manufacturers to find solutions on how to reduce these hazardous air pollutants, known as HAPs, instead of just telling the industry to reduce without any guidance. NESHAP regulation regulates manufacturing area sources which may release hazardous air pollutants from painting, surface coating, combustion of fuels, equipment leaks, when the material is transferred from one location to another, and or during discharge through emission stacks or vents. Applicability is further defined in the individual NESHAPs, and maximum achievable technology, known as MACT, was implemented. The initiative to reduce these air pollutants involved multiple aspects. One being using MACT, which is maximum achievable control technology. Mandating use of emission control technology for major area sources was a major initiative in reducing emission of volatile organic compounds such as toluene, xylene, and others to the atmosphere. Another component was introducing industry-specific best work practice standards, which involved day-to-day operation of manufacturing and how to protect the employees as well as reduce waste and air emissions, with incorporating training of employees, for example, closing the lid of chemicals during the transfer, and for each use to prevent evaporation air emissions, which would expose the workers to those harmful chemicals as well as create air pollution for all. Finally, working with manufacturers and chemical industry to find innovative solutions to reduce use of paints using more advanced spray technology to reduce chemical use and waste. The less we use, the less we pollute. My company, ERA Environmental Software Solutions, was established in 1995 to help manufacturers meet the government mandates to implement 1990 amendment to the Clean Air Act. ERA was established as a consulting firm to help wood manufacturing facilities to prepare and obtain their first Title V air permits. ERA pivoted to software development due to the need for compliance with regulation such as NESHAP, related to paints, combustions, and many other manufacturing processes. SDG targets of particular relevance to ambient air pollution are SDG 3, which calls for a substantial reduction in deaths and illnesses from air pollution. EPA work to implement NESHAPs was a major step toward reduction of air pollutants that contribute annually to millions of deaths around the world. SDG 7, target energy efficiency, which is one of the mandates of Clean Air Act and NESHAPs, specifically combustion sources. EPA used NESHAPs and the Clean Air Act to move manufacturers from using coal, fuel, and wood-burning boilers to cleaner natural gas to reduce air pollution. SDG 11 targets sustainable cities and communities, calls for air quality and waste management. Before we look at SDG 12, let's have a little quiz. Who knows what wood furniture, automotive, aerospace, and shipbuilding have in common? Hint, we like our furnitures, cars, airplanes, ships, nice and metallic looking and shiny, with high gloss for more durability. What do all these industries have in common is paint and chemicals. But all the nice products we consume comes with a price. NESHAPs for many of these industries targeted paint chemical consumption in collaboration with the industry and found innovative ways to reduce their chemical consumption while giving us the looks and the feel and durability we need. and we want. SDG 12, which targets responsible consumption and production, calls for chemicals and waste management. The collaboration of chemical and the end manufacturer has been a great successful story for the niche apps. SDG 17, partnerships for the goals and technologies, which is how EPA niche apps used advanced control technology combined with introducing new innovative spray technology for most effective delivery of the chemicals. EPA partnership with industry to bring about these technological changes is why I have included SDG 17 as part of my UN goals for air pollution reduction. The first global assessment study of air pollution legislation report by United Nations Environmental Program was conducted in 2021. Table below shows the legal instrument containing country-specific national ambient air quality standards as of December 2020, which contains countries like China and United States in which air quality laws was assessed. According to this study, it should be noted that countries like China have adopted ambient air quality standards, which are included as policy and guidance or guidance only, with no source of data publicly available. This may provide practical guidance for national air quality policy and sectorial regulations, but are of limited help with regards to ensuring citizen rights relating to air quality or in establishing legal certainty for operators, whereas in United States, since 1970, has legislative air quality standards called CFR Title 40 and use secondary legislation as instrument to implement and enforce the regulations. You might wonder, why does air quality continue to deteriorate despite the increase in the number of laws and regulations that seek to address air pollution? The first global assessment study of air pollution legislation report by United Nations also shows that 31% of countries are yet to adopt ambient air quality standards, even as the legal amendment to adopt such standards exist, and that 43% of the countries lack a legal definition for air pollution. In addition, monitoring mechanisms in national air quality management systems, which are critical for us to understand just how quality affects national air pollution, and are not legal requirement in 37% of the countries. The study also reveals that only 1/3 of the countries studied have legal mechanisms for managing or addressing transboundary air pollution, even though air pollution knows no boundaries. Findings point to a lack of enforcement capacity as a key reason for the poor implementation of the air quality laws. The first global assessment study of air pollution legislation report contains the table of example of ambient air quality standards enforcement mechanisms that shows how each country might apply enforcements. First type of enforcement mechanism is multi-level government enforcement in which federal action is possible against the state. The United States EPA can issue sanctions against a state and, if necessary, take over enforcement of the U.S. Clean Air Act in that state. Second type is the direct enforcement action against the nation, state, or against individuals. In China, falsifying air quality monitoring data has become a crime, as severe as creating the pollution itself, under laws that took effect in 2015, though there has been few high-profile prosecutions as of now. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, is an international organization that works to build better policies for better lives. OECD has provided a table outlining best achievable available technology reference documents, briefs, and guidance material from different countries according to industrial sectors. I would like to show you briefly the difference between China and United States and their efforts to provide best regulatory guidance to their nations. OECD and its list of best available technology reference documents by sector and for each jurisdiction, for example, United States and People's Republic of China, shows clearly that United States by far has the most amount of regulatory guidance documents per sector of industry compared to China. They have far exceeding regulatory guidance documents than any other country in the world. China is one of the major polluters when it comes to air. The cost of air pollution is felt in China through rise in healthcare costs and health issues. According to Greenpeace research, looking at the economic impact of air pollution and the economic burden of air pollution, the cost to China is 900 billion a year versus 600 billion to United States. Also, Greenpeace Southeast Asia and the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air have released a new report about the cost of air pollution from fossil fuels, both human and on both human and economics. Burning gas, oil, or coal results in 3 times as many deaths as road traffic accidents worldwide, and is estimated that air pollution has a 2 trillion economic cost, equating to 3.3% of the world's GDP. In 2018, the report estimates air pollution was linked to 4.5 million deaths, with PM 2.5 pollution also responsible for 1.8 billion days of work absence, 4 million new cases of child asthma, and 2 million preterm births. Air quality can have an impact on the economy in many forms, such as increased cost of healthcare due to higher rates of asthma, diabetes, or chronic respiratory diseases leading to reduced ability to work, and lower participation rates in the labor force. Children susceptible to asthma attacks also miss school days, impacting their learning, while healthcare requirements can result in their guardians also taking extra time off work. According to the report, disability from chronic diseases cost the world's economy 200 billion in 2018, with sick leave and preterm births costing 100 billion and 90 billion respectively. Superior Court of Judicators of Ghana said it best. The environment is unlike any other thing. It cannot be put into compartments because an occurrence in one place can have far-reaching effects on another place, quite distant from the location. The effects of environmental pollution or degradation have a knack for rearing their ugly heads at the most unlikely of places. They should therefore be everyone's concern. According to Smithsonian's magazine, air pollution in China is spreading across the Pacific to the USA. The most tangible environmental impact of China's enormous manufacturing industry is very localized in China, with bad urban quality, which occasionally closes schools and has entrepreneurs selling canned air and has caused an estimated 1.2 million premature deaths. China is sending detectable levels of pollution to the US, but a significant fraction of it results from manufacturing products for American customers. Air pollution knows no boundaries. It can travel from China to United States in a matter of days. We all have a lot to lose if measures are not taken to prevent the air we breathe, the quality of the air we breathe. But air pollution doesn't respect international borders. And a couple of recent studies have confirmed by showing that the pollution is likely increasing the strength of cyclones forming over the Pacific Ocean and even spreading detectable levels of contaminants all the way to Western United States. So next time we think about global economy and cheap cost of goods from China, we should stop and think. We are consumers and we have the power to make a difference by buying local produced goods, and buying fewer goods means better air quality for us and generations to come. I hope it makes you think twice next time when you're deciding to buy something you could live without. Everything we buy that comes from far distance has major impacts on our air quality and health. Thank you for listening to my presentation.